Good evening, Muttonistas. If you remember last year in Chengdu and other parts of China, I brought you a series called the Hotpots of China. But there was one glaring omission, the Chongqing style hot pot. So join me for today's video about Chongqing hot pot and various other Sichuan dishes that I missed out last year. Now, you might be able to see in the background that I am not actually at a hot pot restaurant. That's going to come later in the video because there is an astonishingly good and good value Michelin starred restaurant here. Okay, I've done a video about a Michelin starred restaurant before, but that was a tasting menu. This one, they've just got an a la carte menu and they don't take bookings. You have to turn up and you have to queue. So we have a 20-minute wait to get our table, roughly. It could be a bit longer than that. I'm with Mr. Fu and I have spotted some stalls. I'm always keen to try a bit of street food, so let's dig in and try something random as an aperitif. We had some kebabs at the Zigong Lantern Festival, so let's see if there's something else of interest here.
No, Hunan. No, this is Hunan smelly tofu. Very
Hunan
famous.
Smelly tofu.
But I don't like it.
You wouldn't recommend it. No. And what about here? There's a whole. Is that a restaurant there?
Yeah, that's a restaurant. It's only for what we call sweet noodles.
Right.
Famous, but they have different things like dan, spicy chicken, intestine.
Okay. Looks cheap.
This is Leshan's famous.
Now, what is this?
This is famous for the chuan. The chuan means the small sticks.
Ah, okay.
You can chuan everything.
Ah.
Like 我给他看看啊，请问这是啥子？啊哈 ，sausage. You know this?
The kebab. Stomach.
Ducks. You like that?
Yeah, okay.
Chickens. Throat.
Gizzards.
Yes, gizzards. Yes.
Eggs.
Small eggs. Yes. But you can also have vegetables.
Ah, okay.
Famous tofu.
Tofu.
Everything like
Duck's blood.
yes, potatoes,
Potato.
lotus, chicken feet,
Chicken feet. Gosh.
mushroom.
Yeah.
Yeah, most likely.
Now that actually looks quite interesting. We might come back to that if we didn't see anything else we like here. What does that mean?
Yeah, that's the name of the owner and the soft white starters you had the other day.
Okay.
You quite like it?
Okay.
I don't know the English word for that.
Okay. Now, what is this? Fish buns?
No, corn buns.
Corn buns.
All made of corn. They handmade
Okay.
the thing, and then into that, cook it there, and they can use this. Use corns is there.
Okay.
They just made it from the old-fashioned.
Oh, okay. Is it spicy? It doesn't look spicy.
No. This is pig brain.
Pig's brain.
And they
A
made
restaurant
noodles.
that specialises.
Pig.
Wow. Okay. Anyone for a bit of pig's brain muttonistas? Actually, I'd have it. I think I have had it before in a hot pot.
对对，明儿就别订麻花子啊。对对 ，You know what they're doing?
Wow.
They're doing the thing into the hot pot.
Okay. Wow.
So
So
what-
this is all dried meat up here.
Yes, like ham, sausage.
Okay.
Here,
Ribs.
ribs.
And this is for the hot pot mix, is it?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. Wow, and the stuff that looks like beef jerky here, it really does look good, actually, that does. And what is this here? Chili nuts.
这是辣椒做的
对，辣椒脆。
辣椒脆。
Just chilies?
Only
It
chili.
looks like there's something inside the
Yeah,
chilies,
yeah, yeah. They use some
but it's
peanuts.
just roasted chilies.
Yes, yes.
Is this a common beer snack?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, I can have a taste of this. I don't know how hot this is going to be. It's spicy. It's not mad spicy, but probably a bit too spicy for some of you. If you like spice, actually, that would be a fantastic beer snack.
Yes, that's mostly what we do it here.
Okay. And you know which part of China you're in when you see all this?
好多火锅底料回去。
30年前的火锅底料那也好吃呀。
对啊，是也好吃的。这都是来做火锅底料用的吗？
是的。
Wow, this does look good, I have to say. And I'm being allowed to try various things here. Now, the store manager or clerk told me it's a little spicy. When somebody from Sichuan province says a little spicy, I'm not sure what that means. More than a little spicy, but it is tasty. Again, absolutely fantastic with beer, this. Wow. In fact, we're going to a pub later, maybe after dinner. Grab a little bit to take to the boozer. Now for an even spicier version. This could lead to some fast drinking tonight if I buy some of this.
Huh?
In terms of the flavour of the meat, that one's the best, I think. Quite spicy as well. Not as hot as the second one I tried, but if I'm going to get some, that's the one I think I'd go for.
The Hotpot.
Yeah. Looks like chili oil to me. And apparently this is a typical Chengdu sweet. That's what it looks like when it's finished. Looks way too sweet for me, that does. And Mr. Fu tells me it cools you down. I'll let the lager and the Guinness do that later.
Yeah. This is another
Chuan.
Yeah. This is the same thing. Yeah. See people, they just come in, use that, choose their own, and she will make the sauce for them.
Something we didn't have yesterday.
100% give you one of this.
Okay, potato and
有没有莲菜？没有莲菜是吧？这里。
Well, Mr. Fu's really going to town here, loading up sticks. Not sure why so many sticks, but maybe they sell them by the dozen or something.
Otherwise, it's too little. Vegetable and others is 1 yuan.
So the meat's 2 and the vegetables 1. That's very reasonable value. Oh yes, and some extra hot oil going in. And that establishment fitted every one of Mutton's rules about eating street food. There's a clean water supply nearby, or cleanish, lots of customers, and female customers as well. Women or children are better. You don't want to be going where the taxi drivers with iron stomachs go, so I think this should be reasonably safe. I think we've gone straight into the deep end with some intestines here. Very slightly crispy, not tough or leathery, and bloody spicy. Mushrooms now. Well, the most famous province in China for mushrooms is Yunnan province, but they're not bad here in Sichuan either. And I have to say, when British or European customers go to Chinese restaurants, in my opinion, they don't order enough mushrooms. Tastes a bit like shiitake mushrooms, those did. I don't know what this is. What is it?
I think that's lung.
Lung. Definitely awful because, wow, it soaks the spices up.
Liver?
Never. That's good. Great firm texture. Time for a green bean. I don't know if this counts as one of my 5 a day. Probably not enough, I guess. Crispy and flavoursome. The Chinese do not overcook their veg at all. Now, that's cauliflower. That's easy for me to recognise. Hello. Flavoured with those peppercorns and hot oil.
Yes.
And now, Sichuan's own Glasgow salad. Is that a turnip or a potato? Because it's quite crunchy. It doesn't taste like potato. If it's potato, it's undercooked in my opinion. So I'll put that one back just in case.
Veg at the end.
Now the veg. Now, how I avoid this getting over my shirt, I don't know. And look at that, absolutely glistening with spice. And I did manage to avoid staining my shirt, but I had to bend over as if I was puking up to make sure that oil dripping and glistening off that piece of veg didn't fall off. And that was the spiciest thing I've had so far today. Veg, always very, very spicy in China and Sichuan province. Wow. Right, Muttonistas, we're back at the restaurant. We're next in line, so we've timed it pretty well. And the restaurant's called Ma Wang Se. There are quite a few Sichuan restaurants now with stars in Chengdu, which is surprising because the spicy food is not the sort of thing Michelin inspectors usually give stars to. But the last one we went to, if you watch one of my earlier videos, you can see my footage of a Michelin starred tasting menu in Chengdu. It was quite superb, and it stayed true to its spicy roots whilst providing a good range of delicate flavours. So I'm hoping this one, which as I said earlier is a la carte only, produces the same sort of taste sensation. And I'm rather hoping they've got a decent wine list as well.
100 years history, 1923 they have this restaurant.
1923 they started. First got a Michelin star in 2022 and have managed to maintain that star ever since.
西林中座70号，这边。
Right, Muttonistas, we are settled down now, and unfortunately the list of beverages was a little thin. Mr. Fu's busy sorting the food order out, but I found one passable bottle of red wine, and apparently the craft beer, which looked very promising, all served at room temperature. Now I know a lot of traditional pale ales from Britain are not served ice cold, but they're not served at room temperature either, more like 10 degrees. Anyway, the wine looks as if it would be okay. The food must be great for this place to get a star, I have to say, given the drinks list.
姑娘，这个时蔬，这个是。
And of course, Chinese meals always start off with cold dishes. Slightly disappointed that our bottle of wine hasn't appeared. I did investigate those taps of craft beer. The range looked pretty good, but I'm not going to have it at room temperature. Anyway, let's try the poached pork in spicy chili oil. It's a dish I've had many times before. Generous streak of fat there. Very good, and the fat is quite important with this dish, and it's a great way to get the ball rolling. Now, Mr. Fu, are those red chilies as they look? Is there something special about them, or have we just voted for extra punishment?
No, that's their signature cold dish. There's so many ways of prepare the chilies. Sichuan people is one of the imaginable people. So I never see before a cold dish, only chilies. They said the waitress just said you have to try this.
Okay.
I just ordered one. They just have a taste.
Okay. Chicken bean curd. Okay, here we go. Something tells me I'm going to regret this. It's nice actually. Slightly pickled, I think.
Yes.
Now, Mr. Fu asked me whether these are spicy. I don't think they are too spicy, although I am coming to the business end of the chili where the seeds are.
I can handle this.
Now, a dish they call chicken bean curd next, which is very hot temperature-wise. I'm guessing it's a chicken stock, which bean curd has been placed into to soak up all those meaty juices. Yeah, that's a very mild broth. Tasty though, especially if you like stuff like chicken soup. Very nice decanter. Not sure it was necessary for about a 30 quid bottle of Nero d'Avola, which I'm sure wouldn't cost anything like that in Europe. The wine itself is okay, nothing to write home about, but it's not bad wine either. If they were serving up real muck, then there's no way they'd get a star. And a bit more of that garlicky, spicy, fatty pork. And I shall await the hot dishes, Muttonistas. Okay, apparently the chefs don't kind of like to hang around once they've finished their time, they stop working. So dishes are actually flying out now. We're eating a little bit later than your average Chinese one. And rather oddly, the pear in wine, which I was hoping would be like a poached pear, has come after the cold dishes, expecting it at the end, but given I think it's cold, it probably doesn't matter anyway. And some pork ribs have appeared, and I'm very, very pleased to tell you that it hasn't come in sweet guns. Far too often, particularly in Europe, ribs come in a very sweet, sickly sauce. That's not the best way to serve them. A little bit of sweetness is okay, but I'm loving this ribs with some crushed chili on the side. Not sure how much to put on these, but I'll dive in head first anyway. Very meaty, very tasty. In terms of the chili, I think I put about the right amount on, by accident rather than design. And I have to say, usually in China, when you get ribs, they're chopped up into small pieces. Now in this restaurant, there is a blend of Westerners and Chinese people eating, and maybe this is an attempt to add a bit of fusion to pander to Western customers. Pretty sure Chinese customers will like this as well, though. Meaty and juicy. Oh, and yes, spicy. Okay, Muttonistas, another dish has arrived, eel. Mr. Food said it's eel in garlic. Now, there's a suspicious red glow about this dish. There surely has to be chili as well involved there, but you never know, just in case. I better cleanse the palate with a quick slurp. And I do like eel, by the way, so this will be a pretty good bellwether of how they cook.
Peppercorns.
And yes, it has to be said, there is chili in that dish. Beautifully infused, actually, into the eel and vegetables. I don't think there's going to be too much of that left. And that is actually quite hot, and I noticed Mr. Fu was taken aback with how hot it was. What has arrived down?
That's the vegetable with beans. They use local beans, but made it into a soup and cook the vegetable. You will, I bet you will like it.
Okay. Yes, I'm going to need some of that cold beer later. So tasty, but so tongue-numbingly spicy as well. Time for the veg in the bean soup. Yeah, I do like that. Obviously not spicy. It actually has the flavours of the beans used in the French dish cassoulet, which is a dish I really like. So again, while you often see European chefs travelling around Asia to get cooking ideas or culinary ideas, it's obvious that the chefs here know a little bit about European tastes as well. Right, Muttonistas, back to the eel dish. Not only have I gone for some of the veg, which is like I think it's like a winter melon type veg. I'm going to have one of the red chilies as well. This might be trouble, but for you Muttonistas, I have to give you every flavour of such delectably spicy dishes.
小心啊，什么都不能倒。
Oh, and I can tell you Muttonistas, those chilies are not for children. And now, the fish. Fish is something I always like ordering at Sichuan restaurants, but what makes this fish dish different from ones we've been having recently?
Do you think? I need to find a word for it. They cook with chili bean sauce. It's called the chili bean sauce fish. It's quite famous in Sichuan cuisine, but to cook this fish, tasty and spicy of the bean is quite difficult. But on the menu, that's their recommended dish. It means the chef must cook this fish very well.
And finally, a beef dish I've been wanting to try, with what looks like some of that beef jerky we were looking at earlier. And what's the beef dish called? Okay, so this beef dish that's arrived, I think it's our last dish. It's called double snowflake peppercorn beef. 2 types of chilies, 2 types of peppercorn, probably spicy. That is nice. That's a really tender, nicely cooked piece of beef. Some sesame seeds, very, very tiny hint of sweetness, plus, of course, the flavours, the chilli and the peppers. It's not particularly spicy, so it'll be quite a crowd pleaser for European customers.
Yeah.
And, I have to say, gone are the days in China where you got really horrible, scrawny pieces of particularly red meat. This is nice beef. And what does nice meat deserve, Muttonistas? Obviously a quick slurp. Right, fish time. Usual warnings about Sichuanese river fish being quite bony. This one didn't feel too bony, but I'm always prepared to spit out bones where required. No, there was not a single bone in that piece I ate. There will be, of course, some bones later, but that's a high quality piece of fish. And the sauce, spicy, slightly sour. It's like a sweet and sour sauce, but actually without the sweetness. It's got a tiny amount of sweetness. But what it has got is the chili beans, the fresh chilies, a few peppercorns, and a bit of vinegar. Lovely. And as you can see, Muttonistas, it's quite an easy fish to navigate because the actual bones are huge. If you're avoiding those bones, then you're fine. And yes, before the sweet and sour brigade starts rubbing their hands, I have to say, first of all, it's the sweetness, it's a tiny bit, it just balances the chili nicely. And I have to tell you all, sweet and sour is actually a Sichuanese dish. You might not have known that, and I've had it on this trip here, and whilst it's a little bit sweet, the sour really comes into play a lot more than the sweet. So you might all be a little bit disappointed if you order it here. For me, I actually liked it. Anyway, Muttonistas, we've got work to do here, a quick slurp, and I will be back with you when we're ready to delve into that poached pear. Right, Muttonistas, nearly finished the meal. We still have the pear to come, of course, and a few pieces of that beef, which went really well with the wine, which got better and better. The temperature of the wine was quite decent as well. And a lot of you ask me, oh, Mutton, why do you drink wine with such spicy food? Well, I do like wine with food, and I would also say, with the one glaring exception of the eel, everything was actually quite wine suitable. The eel was way too spicy for wine, and I just stopped drinking the wine until I'd polished off all of the eel. And talking of the eel, the veg, it wasn't winter melon, it's green endive. I've seen that a lot in Chinese food. Actually quite a lot in Hotpots, and there's not really an easy translation. I think it's from the bamboo family, also Mr. Fu told me, and I haven't seen an English equivalent. Anyway, it's very tasty and spicy dishes because it's one of the hottest things that ends up in the dish. The other veg with the bean sauce and the tea is now unnumbing my tongue, which was in serious pain a few minutes ago. And we've also had a meal with virtually no carbohydrate. Mr. Fu procured a small bowl of noodles but hardly bothered with them. I was happy just eating the protein. This shows how far China's come in terms of diversifying its culinary traditions. Back in the day, I mean, everybody would have rice with their meal, and I suppose most people I saw here did have a bit at the end of their meal. And if you are a Westerner, I would recommend coming here actually, because it's very Western friendly, all sorts of things you can eat without you boiling your brains off. And even though they only had one of the two listed red wines available, it's okay and it's not too expensive. Anyway, my tongue is back to reality now. Quick slurp before we move on to the pear.
好嘞，好嘞，就我吃不下了，他也不吃了，谢谢。
Okay, the pear in wine. It's just occurred to me when a Chinese restaurant says something in wine, this might not be Chardonnay or Sauvignon Blanc. It might be a rice wine, or it might be something incredibly strong. So I might not actually like this. I'm building myself up for a bit of a disappointment here. But before I do, I want to say how proud I am of you all Muttonistas. I expected when I started producing all these films about foreign food, people to be writing in the comments, oh, all this foreign muck. I like deep-fried cod in batter with fried potatoes. Ugh. But nobody does that. I'm very proud of you actually taking such a keen interest in this sort of food. And a lot of you like to know about the bill. It was 850 yuan, so that's 90 to 95 quid between two, in a Michelin-starred restaurant with a bottle of wine which was 300 yuan. So not bad value at all. Anyway, I am expecting either something hideously sweet or something hideously alcoholic. It is a bit sweeter than I expected, but it's okay actually. It's quite refreshing. Quite good at cooling the tongue. So of the sweet things available, I'm sure this would be the least sweet and probably the most refreshing. Anyway, I'm going to finish the pear. And next, we're going down the pub. Okay, Muttonistas, we've arrived at the pub, and they do have Guinness available, along with a lot of other craft beers. Now, the Guinness wasn't poured that well, and it looks a bit thin, to be honest, so I'm fearing the worst. But on the other hand, the craft ale selection did look quite decent. Anyway, Muttonistas, we have moved on from the Guinness, which was a little bit below average. No nitrogen used in the pouring, which meant it wasn't quite as smooth. It's not the worst pint I've had, but I'm not going to have a session on that here. Anyway, lots of pale ales. I like IPAs, and it seems it's becoming very popular in China now. But the strength of some of them, what was the strongest one we saw?
15%.
15% for an IPA. I mean, that's stronger than the bottle of wine we had with dinner by some distance. Anyway, this one's more sensible, and a hazy pale from the Qin brewery, spelled Q-I-N. I think it's from Beijing, I may be wrong there. And this weighs in at 4.2%. much more reasonable. Yeah, that's a classic hazy, that is. They should actually be a little bit stronger than this, funnily enough. They're usually 5 or 6%. So it's a slightly weird beer board with some of the things that should be a bit weaker being way too strong and some of the beers being weaker than they should be. Anyway, I'm going to enjoy this. Probably try one of the stronger, hoppier IPAs, not a hazy one, before finding somewhere to watch the football. Anyway, I'll be back with you tomorrow or the day after to bring you that Chongqing Hotpot, because this video has gone well off topic as usual. Good afternoon, Muttonistas, back at the crease. I'm on the Chintai road, a famous old district of Chengdu, and if you look around me, some of the buildings are actually quite old, built in the traditional Chinese manner. I was going to bring you the main event, the Chongqing Hotpot from Chongqing, but a couple of boozy dinners have put paid to that. It's my last day, but it's easy to find that later here for our dinner tonight. But I thought, well, why not bring you a spot of lunch first, given we're in such an aesthetically pretty part of town. Of course, I'm joined again by the evergreen Mr. Fu. I'd be completely lost without him. But what is the name of the restaurant?
The road is called Chintai Road. Restaurant called Chintai Bridge. Yes. You haven't got fish head for some time, so
okay.
I saw they have this dish.
Okay, let's proceed with all due haste. Well, there's a smattering of English on there and the odd picture, but not enough for me to make any decisions really, so it's over to Mr. Fu.
对。
So after all that Chinese craft beer, having tea at lunchtime, this is pu'er, quite a dark tea. It's not actually a Sichuanese tea, it's from Yunnan province, which is the province, I think it's just one province to the south. Anyway, that's pretty refreshing. Not a particularly strong tea either. Probably a good thing given the spicy food. Some tofu and some pickles have appeared as a sort of cold starter. More like an amuse-bouche actually. And the tofu seems to have been liberally doused with chilli, oil and fresh chilies. But still quite a well-balanced little cold snack. So, what looks like a couple of cold dishes have arrived on the table. I think I've had that aubergine before, maybe not quite prepared this way. And I'm going to have a guess that that might be goose. Is that...
Duck, yes.
It's duck.
Duck.
And how is the duck prepared?
Lu is braised.
Braised, okay. What's coating the aubergines? What's the sauce with the aubergines?
That's the soy, I think.
Okay, soy. Will that be spicy?
Yeah, that will be spicy.
Okay, duck time. So that's hot and on the bone, so be careful about the bones. Normal in China for meat to be served bone in. And it's tasty, it's nothing out of this world. And most regions of China do tend to have their own duck speciality. I was expecting it to be cold though. One thing to note is that the Chinese, as some other countries do, very much appreciate the importance of the skin and the fat just under the skin. Adds a whole lot of flavour to the meat. Aubergine time. Aubergine's one of my favourite vegetables wherever I'm having my food, but I particularly like the Chinese preparations of it. This is a cold dish. Slight hint of vinegar, slight hint of chilli, and a little bit of soya as well. And it's a bit of a slow burner. I've caught some heat there. And to be honest, I should have known that, a bit of a schoolboy error there, because aubergines do soak up whatever they're prepared in. And I've just been coughing after my second piece of aubergine. It caught me at the end, the chili did. But did you know that there are two types of aubergine, a European and an Asian type? Pretty sure these are the Asian type, because with European aubergines, if you don't salt them first, they're very firm and bitter. Try it at home when you next prepare a European aubergine. Salt it and you'll see a load of black gunge coming out, which you don't really want. And then it will taste fresh, clean, not bitter, and it'll have a much better texture.
Beef, but they mix it with.
This is chicken.
That's chicken, yes.
Okay. Now, to the untrained eye, it looks a bit like beef with potatoes.
No, rice noodle.
Rice. Oh, those are rice noodles. They look like potatoes.
Yes.
And it looks quite heavily spiced and quite oily, that does. And chicken. Now, I've had the famous Sichuanese chicken dishes with dried chilies. Is this some sort of variant on that?
Yes. You will find more than the famous
Than the Lazaji,
yes.
Okay. Now, onto the beef. This looks as if it's a cheap cut that's been braised. Don't need an expensive cut in a sort of spicy stew. But reasonably tender, and the sauce has a bit of a kick to it. And accompanying it, rice noodles. I must admit, it looks like a potato to me, but only one way to find out. And it's not a potato, it really is a noodle. It's the most odd looking noodle I've ever seen, but it's one of the spiciest I've had. Wow, wow, wow. That sauce has a kick to it. It's as if they've added extra chili flakes at the end to what's already a very spicy dish. But I really love the flavours, even though my tongue's starting to get a bit numb. So I thought, I'm going to man up. I'm going to go right to the bottom of this dish and try some of the bits of noodle that have soaked up most spice. Oh yeah, that's got a full Sichuan goodie bag attached to it. That has the stuff at the bottom, just like with the rabbit. Wow, it is very, very spicy. Spice merchants, you'd love it here. Now then, chicken time. One of the first dishes I ever had in a Sichuan restaurant on one of my first visits to China was the dish we were talking about, Lazaji, which is called hot and numbing chicken, I believe, but it is deep fried usually. This looks as if it's been stir fried, and the big difference is that there are tons of dried red chilies in the more traditional dish. So they've been a bit creative here and used fresh green chilies. I don't know whether we're supposed to eat the chilies. One similarity is that if you look carefully at the pieces of meat, they're also slathered with Sichuan peppercorns or huajiao. That's really tender, really flavoursome. But if you bite into a peppercorn, you'll know about it. A friend of mine from Indonesia used to call them landmines. Now, my experience is that most Chinese diners, when they get a dish like this chicken dish, just eat the meat and leave the chilies there. But I thought, well, I've got to quality control the chicken, because otherwise you're A, going to call me a wimp, and B, you're going to say, oh, mutton, we don't know how strong the chilies are. So here we are. No, it's strong chili. It's not a blow your head off chili. So I suspect the heat's come from the peppercorns.
Their signature fish dish.
Wow. Wow.
等它拍完，先让它拍一下。
Well, Muttonistas, I've had a lot of Sichuanese fish dishes in the past, but this is a new one on me. Apparently it's the signature dish of the restaurant, and it's amazing actually for a part of China that's so far inland how good the fish dishes are. Massive rivers with massive river fish.
They kill the fish live, then they use the temperature here to cook that. This is a thick broad bean sauce.
Okay, a thick broad bean sauce. But I doubt it's the beans making it hot.
No.
Well, fish time, and what's Mr. Fu's initial assessment of the fish? How bony is it?
You had this fish before.
Okay.
Less bone.
Okay.
And it's live killed, then just use the temperature of the wok
The pot.
to make it.
Okay. So presumably not overcooked. Okay, as you can see, it's still steaming hot. So I've got the double problem of avoiding staining my shirt and actually boiling my mouth off or lifting the roof of it off. Not a single bone in that mouthful, and a very, very flavoursome sauce. I can't tell you exactly what is in the sauce, but what I can tell you, like a lot of the Sichuanese fish sauces, very, very slight hint of vinegar, some chilli, but it's quite well balanced. It's nowhere near as hot as the beef, which is probably a good thing.
汤底是鲫鱼包的鲫鱼包汤，然后呢，基本上就是你看里面加一些泡豇豆、蒜末、芹菜。
First, they use this.
Okay, a Crucian carp. Okay.
To make the stock.
Okay.
Then they have a secret paste, which the chef made by himself.
Yeah.
Mixed it. Then use some traditional Sichuan, like garlic.
Garlic, yeah. Garlic, peppers and chilies.
Yes. To mix it.
And some spring onions on the top.
Yes.
And some, looks like chives as well. So there we are, Muttonistas. I did try and find out exactly what's in the sauce because it is beautiful. It complements the fish nicely, spices it up, doesn't overpower it, doesn't detract from the flavour of the natural ingredient. And these types of carp, I'm guessing it's farmed around here rather than plucked straight from the river, they are actually the best fish to go for in terms of river fish. And I'm being told that it's also called a snakehead fish, which is, again, from the river. Not exactly sure what that is. It's not the sort of thing you'll get fried up at the chippy like cod or haddock, but it is absolutely delicious. And if I were a betting man, I'd bet on that whole fish being polished off. Okay, a quick slurp. Very much needed, actually, because the fish towards the bottom of the dish is getting spicier and spicier, and I think actually there's just the tiniest amount of sweetness in there, not too much. Anyway, we're going to get on with this, demolish the food in front of us, or at least the fish for sure, and I'll be back with you when we're done. So, as predicted, nearly everything polished off, and especially the fish. And you might wonder where the head went to. Yes, here in China, people eat the heads, and so do I. Some of the best meat you can find on a fish is on the head, particularly the cheeks, which applies actually to other animals like pigs and cattle. You must have seen pig's cheeks, beef cheeks, monkfish cheeks on Western menus. Very, very tasty cut. Anyway, I'm enjoying my tea. I've got that numbing sensation all over my tongue. And we will be back for the centrepiece of the video, the Chongqing style hot pot. Right, Muttonistas, finally we are at the place which the whole video is supposed to be about. A Chongqing hot pot restaurant called Chongyuan Ji, I think. Doesn't have any special meaning, it's just a name. People often say that the Chongqing style of hot pot can be the spiciest of the lot. I brought you the Mongolian, I brought you the Chengdu style Sichuan hot pot, the fish head, and now let's get stuck in to this Chongqing style hot pot. Mr. Fu is with me, of course, and maybe he can tell us why Chongqing style is different to Chengdu and why it's spicier.
Right, the Chongqing hot pot, the difference between Chengdu and Chongqing is to do with the ingredients pretty prepared into the hot pot. They use old-fashioned bull butter, which very spicy. But Chengdu, they put chili oil and just boiled water, and the ingredients is less spicy. That's most of the differences. We'll see later in the hot pot.
I'm just walking past other diners to the staircase to go up a floor. What a smell, what an aroma. I think I'm in for a spicy treat tonight, Muttonistas.
他拍呢，在这拍呢。
So, Muttonistas, we were a bit late. Our dining companions, who are both, shall we say, work colleagues of Mr. Fu in a loose sense, got a few items on the table, some meat, some tripe and various other things. But I want to draw your attention to the hotpot. Looks quite different to the Chengdu style one that I brought you last year. And apparently that is the difference. That's the bull's butter,
Yes,
apparently.
yeah.
But there does seem to be a metal grid, shall we say, separating different parts of the hotpot. What's that there for?
That's you put when it's boiled. You put different items.
Ah, okay.
So the taste won't mix.
Okay. And what's the red stuff?
That's duck blood.
Duck's blood, okay.
The best thing that's.
Okay.
I like it very much.
So as always, the first thing we have to do is go and mix our dip. So what are we putting in here?
Typically, they only have sesame oil and garlic. That's what I'm going to give it to you. But
Okay.
I like to put some,
Coriander.
yes. And if you don't think it's spicy enough,
Oh yes, we'll have a bit of chili. Yeah.
you don't like. You don't like.
Next comes the sesame oil.
Okay.
Very important to load that into your dip, as Mr. Fu is doing now.
The Moutai is
There's
calling.
some party and some group who's going to dine over there, and I'm pretty sure, looking at some of those glasses, that the Mao Tai might appear. Now, I don't know whether those are beef balls or prawn balls.
给两瓶儿，那个酱心，对我刚看那个，
What looks like some
要冰的，
pork
要冰的。
is going. Or maybe it's beef.
这是什么肉？
排骨、猪肉
And what's that?
That's ribs.
Ribs, okay.
羊肉
没有，也是猪肉嫩肉片，
pork. That's beef.
是
Okay.
牛肉吊龙，
But you put it in and
What is it, beef?
是牛肉吧？
对牛肉
Beef. 好了，胖子，行了，小胖坐吃，拿了。
Now this is all happening a little quickly, it's coming a bit thick and fast. A bowl of fried rice appeared. Not sure I want carbohydrates just yet in this meal. Anyway, we've only just got the beverages on the table and it's not going to be really a wine-suitable meal, this. So we've gone for beer, although for some reason when Chinese diners drink beer with their food, it tends to be fairly weak. I don't understand this. Those IPAs at 15% last night, I guess it's just horses for courses. Either very strong liquor or very weak beer. It's 3.9% alcohol. It's a lager. It's okay, actually. It's got a very slight note of honey, I think. And if you're interested, the beer is called Snowflake from the northeast of China. And of course there's nothing written in English on the bottle, but it is a distinctive bottle, so it should be easy to recognise. Wow, all sorts of stuff flying into different parts of the hot pot. Luncheon meats flying in left, right and centre. And I think this is the style I prefer. I've not had one for quite a while, but the lads here prefer Chongqing hot pots over Chengdu hot pots. Maybe that's a bad thing to say when you're in Chengdu, I don't know. Okay. The beef that seemed to be already cooked first, but we were told it had to go in. Cripes. That is spicy, and we've only just started. I'm going to be on fire at the end of this meal. Although whilst we were on our way, a phone call was made inquiring as to how spicy I would like the hot pot. I just told them to go all in. Spam, well, spam is spam, it's okay. Not the most exciting ingredient that goes into a hot pot, but I'm looking forward to a piece of that pork and the rib. I've never had a rib in a hot pot before. Okay, time for the pork. Now when this pork went in, it actually looked like a slice of bacon, and it still looks like a well-cooked slice of bacon. I think it's more like fatty belly pork.
Yes.
Yes, that's what it is. It's the same cut of meat that you see in twice-cooked pork or Wei-Guo-Rou. And now it is tripe time, and it's very important to dip whatever you're putting into the hot pot back into your own personal dip, because otherwise your dip doesn't get spicy enough. And I've seen Western diners get a separate plate and not even bother with the dips. But if you're going for a spicy meal, you may as well go the whole hog. There's no point in putting it on a separate plate, or even worse, washing it in hot water. You may as well go for something that's not spicy, like Bai Wei, the white broth.
Oh, 我知道了，那是招边儿。
Okay, those, what I thought were beef balls, are actually pork balls. Oh. Hot in temperature, hot in spice. That has soaked up some of the spiciest parts. And Mr. Fu's enjoying the duck's blood, which is something I'm about to try myself. And he does always tell me that outside of Sichuan province, they don't actually make it very well. And I have to say, that is a stunningly good example of duck's blood. And you might have noticed, Muttonistas, that we're in the main restaurant, not in a private dining room. Personally, when it comes to hot pots, and to be honest, sometimes for other Chinese meals, I do like the atmosphere in the main dining hall. I just thought I was eating a piece of duck's blood, and what it was actually a mountain of peppercorns. I'm going to regret that. Ooh. I've also chosen to wear a cheap t-shirt and not a polo, because the chances of me not staining it are pretty slim. Anyway, something I've not had in a hot pot before, had it many times before as part of a dim sum meal, chicken's feet. Yeah, this is actually quite a nice way of having chicken's feet, I think. So just a different melange of spices to the standard Cantonese style of making them, with soy and a little bit of chili. This is more flavoursome. Okay, pork rib time. Now, this is going to be a little bit tricky to eat with a pair of chopsticks, or at least it will be for me. So I'll just have a little nibble to give you a sense of the flavour.
他不好，他说这个排骨不好咬。
Pretty tender meat actually, and it's cooked and it's been coated with a bit of spice, but it's not one of those things that's soaking up masses of spice. So some of you wimps out there, that's something more for you. Although it is tasty, all the meat in these things is pretty tasty.
是脑啊
Pig's brain?
Yes.
That's a little treat that's going in later. Pig's brain. I hope I'm not putting some of you off here.
对， we wait until it's floating.
But it's pork coated in rice. Now we're on to the beef, something you see in every hot pot that we have.
没有羊肉，没关系，没关系，其实是猪肉。
牛肉还没，牛肉也好了，在这两里面都好了，也好了。
Now I have to say, usually with the Chengdu style hot pots, it does take a while for the spice level to build up when you get bits of the oil and the peppercorns into your dip. This has been spicy right from the start, and the meat, which usually isn't that spicy, doesn't soak up much of the spice. The beef, that is already pretty damn spicy enough.
晾着，对，晾着。晾着。
两个边花叉，我觉得它总不可能总不可能不经过。
Now I was just about to have another chicken spurt, but something more exotic got put into my bowl. Yes, it's the pig's brain. Now I have had it before and it's actually quite pleasant. And those of you who watch my Pakistani series would know that I had Pakistani style mutton's brains. And I described it as Pakistani foie gras because that is how it tastes. Texture, wonderful. So look away, folks, if you're a bit squeamish. I suspect this is going to be very spicy as well. I'm letting some of that hot oil drip off it. The texture is very rich and creamy. It is a little bit like pan-fried foie gras in terms of its texture. Obviously, of course, the flavour is completely different. It's spicy. Foie gras normally has sweet things attached to it, or coated with sugar or caramel sometimes, or pan-fried in port or whatever. But this is pure spice. And it goes without saying, Muttonistas, the brains were cooked through. There's no medium rare or even medium well about that. You have to cook that through. Time for a quick slurp after those heady moments. In fact, time for a quick chin wipe, I think.
Yes.
And I'm not sure why the beer gets served in such tiny glasses. I'm going to have to ask why that is. Is it so people can gambe and say the Chinese form of cheers and knock it down quickly? I'm guessing so. Next up, Chinese sausage. I'm not sure what that's doing here. It's a slightly odd thing to put in a hot pot. Yeah, tasty. I like Chinese sausage, but I prefer it just cooked with rice. Now, why is the beer served in such small glasses at these places?
The
beer. Why is it served in tiny glasses? Is that so people can gambe?
Yes.
Okay.
Like this. 来吧，给他表演一个。胖子问为什么喝啤酒用这么小的杯子？我说干起来方便呢。走 ，drink in one。
我上来现在不是先取了2梅花吗？我的计划就是我想
Enoki mushrooms have now gone in, and along with the tofu and the veg, which I hope we're getting at the end, that's one of the spiciest things you can put in there. Not because it's spicy itself, it's because it extracts all of the spicy juices that it can, which then explodes in your mouth. Unfortunately, there's no mutton available here, so we've been having slightly different ingredients. I don't know whether it's seasonal, geographical. But when I've had the Chengdu style hotpots, usually they have mutton on the menu.
让我跟我打我头，用投入的方式来打断我。他选择
要猜什么呀？
我手工一个方块，10个梅花图案可以就再2个方块。
你这样吃。
然后再煸一个炒花下锅。
Doesn't just pick up the spice, it picks up all the other flavours in the hotpot, especially the meaty ones.
干嘛呢？
And of all the mushroom varieties that you can have in a hotpot, Enoki, absolutely my favourite. So we're starting to wind down now. Because a lot of rice was consumed, we didn't get as much meat and stuff as we would normally go for in one of these hot pots. But we have lotus roots, which takes a while to cook, and then the veg. And this hot pot is so spicy, that is going to be like going into the bowels of hell, Muttonistas. Right, time for the lotus root. I can't remember actually how much spice these serve. It does feel as if these have been in for 15 to 20 minutes. Maybe I'm a bit out of sync with the time here, but they've been in for a long time. And they're much bigger slices of lotus than I'm used to. Very hard for me to pick this up and eat it one-handed. A lot of people like this, but for me it's not particularly exciting. It's crunchy and crispy, soaks them a bit of spice, but there are better things to put in a hot pot in my opinion. So it is veg time, the pièce de résistance. The stalks are enormous, so it's taking a while for us to actually get them into the hot pot so that it all cooks at the same time. Because you don't want a bit that's soggy and a bit that's crunchy on the other end.
随时可以煮啊。他们俩
So then, Muttonistas, the veg at the end, the green veg,
水平
not
接近。
a palate cleanser at all. It is something that is the hottest, spiciest possible item that I've ever had in Sichuan cuisine. It looks so innocent, doesn't it? But it isn't.
凉啤酒给它倒进去。
现在是真了，现在就是两个挨着那边走过去30米左右，就一个路，我们真的贴了个，我们那里要拉好多条横幅，拉了20-30条横幅吧，其中有一条横幅就是这个，就今年。但我一般
够辣吗？啊？
一般。
嗖嗖，我以为。
还有家的味道。
对，那个是往外卖的，卖到省外去，你知道？
锅就不行，就不行。如果你不吃辣，你就吃微辣。
但是我咬不动那杆儿。
主要是叶子是最辣的。
我的牙咬不动那个。
你还得晾一下，叶子是最辣的。
Until it now it's going to be spicy. When it comes to the latter.
这下就辣了，也不怕，叶子也不辣，一会儿就有了。
Man from Chongqing.
但我刚才吃上一块的时候，我是感觉到辣了的，这下去了。
Let's see how the Asian.
我操！还说不辣？你这么说不辣？你骗我 ！Lie to me！
就这个，
哎呀，没事啊
如。果需要查就行。
为什么要查你？我没去他妈干别的，我操！Yeah, we'll see you next time. Hopefully, not too long.
And on that note, Muttonistas, I'll love you and leave you, but don't forget, you can't beat a bit of mutton.